A little bit of research, and actually per the Ford manual, I've discovered in order to remove this crank pulley, you have to lower this subframe here by a few inches. So that's what I'm in the process of doing here. I'm going to show you. You've got a bolt right here that I'm taking loose. Got it broke loose. I'm just using my pneumatic, and you got one back here. Now definitely safety is the key when doing this. I've got blocks back under here supporting the van. I've got another jack right here as a precaution, and I'm utilizing 2 jacks here, and still being very careful because safety's key. But I've got a jack here and a jack up here supporting this. So I'm just going, I haven't even taken the bolts completely out. I don't know how much slack I'm going to have, but I'm going to slowly just start lowering this until I can get this here off, and then we'll be putting those back in. Okay, so I removed completely those 2 bolts that go up through the body mounts there, and you can use a 6-sided 3/4 or it's an 18 millimeter. And I've went ahead, and you can see how much I've lowered it there, a couple inches or more. And then back here, like I said, I got my jacks under there on both sides, being careful. And there's this harness, and this thing just clips up into there, and just pry it out with a screwdriver. It comes right out of the way. And this should be ready to come off here. Alright, so there it is. And now, said that I'm able to get that off, I can go ahead and now, as far as getting this water pump off, that's going to be the next chore. Now, I've got to put these body mounts back on, and I'm going to do something a little bit different. I have to jack or I'm going to lift the motor up either with a jack or my engine hoist over there, and I've got to get it up enough at an angle where I can pull that water pump out. Now, once I get the water pump out, I'll be able to get the slack I need so I can slide this motor over and out of the transmission, out of that torque converter. But this is probably the biggest chore, getting this crank pulley off. But once I went and done some research, wasn't too bad. There's just 2 bolts, one up here and one back there, and you just take those out. Make sure you got everything supported and safe, and you can put even more safety blocks under here if you want, and just definitely be safe if you're going to do it. And just lower it those few inches, and it gives you just enough to slide that up and out of there. Like I said, right now I'm just going to work on putting these bolts back in for now. Okay, now all I've done is just reattached the subframe. I've put those bolts right back in there where they go. Now, what I'm going to do while I'm down here is we've got a couple of these engine mounts. Got one here, and then I've got another one that's back right here. You can see the motor mount, and we're going to have to get underneath in here, if you can see this. And we're gonna have to get that loose for this next step. So that's what I'm gonna be working on here. Okay, in the first one, I've just removed this 18 millimeter headed nut for this front mount. Okay, and I've just removed the nut from up in here, and an 18 millimeter nut as well. It needed a little more persuasion, so I had to use the big pneumatic. So now I've got both of those loose. We're gonna go up top. probably going to hook my engine puller, cherry picker up to it and see what we can do with it. I was going to need these mounts loose anyways. I'm not going to worry about hooking them back up. And like I said, we're going to go up top now and see about getting my cherry picker hooked up to this, see if we can get this water pump off. Okay, now I want to show you what I've done here. I'm using a seat belt to pull this, and I've tied it up here on the front, kind of passenger side, down here at the exhaust manifold. Tie these things good. And if you're unsure about tying it, you know, you might want to use a chain or something. And then the other one is back here on the exhaust manifold. It's more towards the driver's side in the rear. It's just kind of, you can see how I've just kind of got it zigzagged across through there. And that's how I'm going to lift this thing. And you want to get this pretty tight because this thing's going to flex some, and you don't want a whole lot of slack there. And so now I've got the mounts loose. I'm going to go ahead, make sure I don't have anything else attached. I think there was a wire down there that I noticed on the exhaust that I need to disconnect. But I'm just going to be lifting it up for now just to get this water pump, so it's not real critical that I'm checking everything. The main thing is just so I've got enough slack to lift it up to get that out of there. So I'm going to be working on this now. Okay, here's the connector I was talking about that goes to this Cadillac converter or whatever that is there. And I'll just go ahead and disconnect that before you start lifting on it. Okay, I wanted to show y'all this just to show you how much I've lifted this up. That is the engine mount right there you're looking at. And I've lifted this thing a few inches, and looks like it's pretty much sitting where it was in the back. I guess it just kind of twisted, but I just hooked my engine puller up to it and put a strap on it. Probably because the exhaust and stuff's hooked up, it kind of wants to just lift up in the front, I guess. But that was enough to get this. Now the first thing, I just slid this over and out, and I've got enough room there as is to get that out of there. And I've just kind of got it sitting there right now to show you. But I'm fixing to just take that completely out, and that's going to clear up all the room. I'm going to have to take that tensioner pulley back there off. And other than that, you can see how much room I'm going to have here to work with, so I'll be able to slide that thing out of that transmission, no problem. I don't mind pulling the transmission out, but it's just, you know, if you're repairing the transmission or replacing it, it's one thing because you're going to be draining all the fluid and doing away with it anyways, but I just hate to have to, you know, lose fluid, and then you got to cap the CV axles, and it's just, it makes it more of an ordeal taking all that extra stuff, and I just kind of prefer just to take the engine out if I can. Another thing I'd noticed, I guess because it was twisting back, that this throttle bracket was getting dangerously close. You could see right there, you can barely see daylight between it. So keep a mind on that. And if you feel like that it's going to get in the way, just go ahead and take that off there. I had enough room where I was, so I'm just leaving it for now. I might remove it as I go to taking this engine out. I don't know, just to keep it from snagging on something. But that's where I'm at. I'm going to go ahead, and the next step, I'm just going to remove this water pump here, and then I'm going to be working on getting that tensioner pulley. Okay, I got that pump plumb out of the way, and I also took the time to put my nuts and bolts back where they went. And right now I'm working on taking this tensioner pulley out of the way, and I'm using a 13mm ratchet wrench, and this is going to be a backwards thread or whatever, so you're going to actually go tighten to loosen it. So I'm just going to get that off right now. Okay, now I just took that tensioner off of there. From here, I believe I'm going to go ahead and just set the engine back down for now, and I'm going to double check and see what I've got left to disconnect. Looks like I've got a connector right there, that oxygen sensor. I need to go ahead and get that, and I'm gonna, like I said, go ahead and set this back down. I'm gonna start working on disconnecting this transmission next. Alright, I'm gonna start removing some of these transmission bolts, and I'm using my breakover bar here, and I've got a 6-sided socket, and this transmission tube's kind of in the way here, but I was able to kind of still get it pretty good, get a good bite on it. But 6-sideds, like I said, I like it, keeps from stripping. These are pretty tight, so I'm gonna use the breakover bar wherever I can, and I'm getting this first one out here. Okay, now I'm just working my way down to the second one here, and I'll also mark and number all these, put them back where they go. Okay, now I'm back up here on this one. Some of these you're just not going to get at with a ratchet, so you're just going to have to improvise, and whatever you need to do. Take you a couple ratchets, put a wrench or a couple of wrenches, and take a cheater bar or whatever you have just to kind of get where you can get it loose. Okay, now I'm getting the one that's down lower there, and I'm just using a ratchet and a little breaker bar to get in there. Also found there's a lot of ants in here in these leaves, and I gave them a little shot of the brake cleaner. Okay, I'm right here below the vehicle. I want to show you, if you can see right here, that's where the ground is running to this starter. I'm going to start by removing this, and definitely want to mark that, make sure we get that back. So we've got a nut holding the ground, and then there's a nut below that we'll have to remove as well. Okay, so I just took this 15mm headed nut off of the ground and that little bracket, and now I'm just about to remove the nut that's going to the alternator, and it's a 13mm that was behind that for whatever reason, but we're fixing to go ahead and remove that now. Okay, so now I just removed that stud bolt from out of the alternator there. Okay, and I'm working my way on down here. It's the second one down on the alternator, and it's a 13mm as well, and these have a lot of torque on them, so you're going to want to utilize a breaker bar or something. Okay, my phone was dead, so I had to get a light, or it was about dead there. And I just want to show you, if I can, here, that there's this one bolt right down here, and there's going to be another one right down in here. Just there's two right here at the bottom of this oil pan that you can see, and I'm fixing to take those two out. Moved those two bolts on the bottom, and I just wanted to show you this right here. If you can see my alternator, the only thing I've done with it, I've left everything connected because the wires and stuff don't need to be disconnected. They're not hooked to the engine anymore, and I've just left that and just pushed it over to the side out of the way. Like I said, those two bolts I was trying to show you that were beside the oil pan on both sides, those are 13mm. I just took those out and you know, just labeling them as I go. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to this passenger side wheel well. I can see I've got a bolt right there, and I can show you these. I got one here, and then I've got another one right down there, and I'm going to work on taking those out and see if there's any more. I'm not real sure. And I just wanted to also point out that when I was doing this, these ones that are on top, I've left those in. I just loosened them up and have left those in for now, so it's not coming apart on me. And once I get everything loose, I'll go ahead and get my transmission supported with the jack, and I'll go about taking those final ones out.